Hey you guys, it's Amy Gretchen. Welcome back to day 10 in my December daily album. This is for 2018. And in this day, I'm going to be telling a story about how much I love the snowfall and how magical it is. And I realized that I already told a story about the cold and how that creates this coziness. So I'm definitely feeling like there is a theme to this album just about how much I love the winter. But there's just something to the snowfall, and it just is so magic to me when it's coming down. And so I wanted to tell that story today. So I printed out a large photo, and this is 6.5 by 8 1/4. So it's the size of a page protector. And then I cut out this digital file from Ali Edwards that says the magic of Christmas. And I was actually just considering cutting off the of Christmas just because my journaling was all about, the magic of the snowfall. But I do relate the two together about how I feel like the snow really ushers in the Christmas holiday for me. So I decided to go ahead and keep it. So I can't now remember if this file came from her December Daily Play class or if this was one you can purchase. But if I can link to it, it will be linked below. And I just cut that out on my silhouette and it's absolutely stunning. I love it on top of that photo. And then I wanted to have some fun and play on this snowflake theme. And so I decided to create this partial die cutting onto my cardstock. And I'm going to jump onto my Silhouette Studio and show you how I created it. All right, you guys, so I'm inside the Silhouette Studio and I have open this snowflake cut file that I got from the Silhouette Design Store. I think it was like 74 cents. So it's not a big deal, but it's totally something that you could create on your own in Illustrator or Photoshop if you were interested in doing something like that. I just thought, 74 cents was totally worth it for my time. I was actually hoping I could use a die cut that turned out to be a little bit too delicate. And then I was also hoping to use the snowflake cut file that came in a Create a Bubble winter cut files, but that was a little too intricate and it would not work for how I wanted this snowflake to look. So I wasn't able to use it. So essentially what I want to create here is I want to create a rectangle that I'm going to do my journaling. And then I want to pull over this snowflake and so it looks like a partial die cut on the edge. But it's probably easier just to show you than to try and explain. So the first thing that I want to do, when I went ahead and tried to move this snowflake, I noticed that they're not connected. So I'm Control or Command Z to back out of that. I'm going to highlight everything and I'm going to make it a compound path. So it's just right clicking and then go down to compound path. And now you can see that it's all together. And then the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to make this a little bit smaller and I can just drag it like this, maybe make it 3.5, 3.6, something like that. Or you could adjust over here with the width and the height. You just want to make sure that the lock is on so that it will constrain the proportions. And then I'm going to click on Alter Option and I'm going to drag out this snowflake just because I want a few extra just in case. So just kind of pulling out a few extra there. And then I'm going to move that one off to the side. Then the next thing I want to do is I need to create a rectangle. So I'm going to go over to my rectangle tool because I want a place for my journaling. So I'm just going to drag out any old rectangle and then I'm going to come over to the selection tool, which is the arrow, click on the rectangle, come up to my width and my height, and I'm just going to put it in. This time I want to uncheck the lock because I do not want to constrain the proportions. I want this to change each individual and I want the height to be 3 and then I will have, the width to be 3 and then the height to be 8.25, which is the height of the page protector. So I think that that will be good for right now. And now what I want to do is imagine having my journaling onto this rectangle and then I want to create these snowflakes so it looks like there is a partial die cut. So essentially the snowflakes are going to be an extension of this rectangle. It's going to have this really cool edge. So I'm going to just randomly place the snowflakes here so it looks good together. And keeping in mind everything that's on the inside of this rectangle will not cut out. So I think I want to rotate this just a little bit just to make it appear a little bit different. And I want to make sure that there is some touching in between these die cuts, or this cut file. I think I actually want to bring it in a little bit there so it's not so far out. Pull over the next one. Maybe we'll rotate this a little bit more, or just rotate it a little bit differently, and then pull that one out there. Again, I just want to make sure that I'm getting some good overlap. And it looks like that's going to go all the way down. So maybe just 3. If I highlight all of these, well, I do not want to highlight the rectangle. If I highlight all of them and then just go ahead and bring it down, I think that that should be okay. Keeping in mind, these are going to be cut off the edge as well. So I think that that should be okay. Now I'm going to click on these 2 snowflakes and I'm going to weld those together. I tried welding it all. Well, let me try welding it all at the same time and see what that looks like. So I'm highlighting everything, including the rectangle. I'm going over to this little icon that looks like a rectangle and a circle. It's the modify panel. And I'm going to click on weld, and hopefully it did what I wanted. And that is exactly what I wanted it to do. So I've got all the shapes on the outside, and then I've got this place in the middle. However, I'm not really liking all of this, so I could just go ahead and cut that out, or excuse me, just delete those portions so they don't cut. But what I think I'm going to do is try to make it so it looks a little bit better. So I'm going to Control Z out of that, and I can just highlight just this last one and kind of move it over, just so I'm not getting those teeny tiny pieces there. And then I will kind of do the same with that and see what this looks like now when I weld it together. I'm getting some random pieces there where they're mixing, and that's okay. I think that that's okay. Let me get up a little bit more. I would maybe see if I can fix that. And this right here. So this might just be a little bit of finessing. Let me go back a few steps. All right, there we go. Maybe we just need to have them touching, but not touching too much, so that we're not getting too much of a crazy overlap. And this one, maybe pull this one up a little bit so they're just touching right there. I wonder if that's the only touch point, if that's going to be strong enough. Maybe I will make it so it's touching right there as well. So let's see if we weld these together, what it looks like. Come back over to the modify panel. So that's not bad. So if you imagine, this will be cut off right here up at the top. And I really do like that, but maybe I would just cut it here. I don't know. So I could just go ahead and cut this out as is, and then maybe add my journaling later. I could write it out by hand, or maybe type it out on vellum and put that on top. But actually what I want to do is I want to print it on top of this and then cut it out. So I'm going to do a print and cut with this file. So I'm going to actually go over to my Photoshop, and I'm going to grab my journaling, which is right here. I am going to Control A and then Control C, or Command A, Command C, to highlight everything and then copy it. And I'm hoping that it will grab this, because I don't actually have these two combined. And I'm going to go over to my silhouette, and I'm going to do Command V, and I'm happy that it brought it in. It looks like it did just bring in my journaling though, not the entire file. So I think I want to bring it, I'm just going to delete this and I'm going to redo it because I actually want to bring in the file just because I have it set exactly how I want it. So I'm going to come over here to my layers panel and I'm going to click down here or click on the little lines for more and then come down to flatten the image. And now I'm going to do Control A and then Control C and then come over to my silhouette and do Control V. So now I've got the whole file here and I'm just going to change the size. So I'm going to come up here and make sure that the lock is indeed locked, and I'm going to put 3 inches here, and then it goes down to a 3x8. And because it's kind of overlapping this, I'm going to highlight it and I'm going to right click and come down to send to back, and that way the file is behind the cut file. And then I'm just going to add it in, keeping in mind I want to have holes down the side, so I need to have more space there. And I think that that looks pretty good there. And I need to set up this to be a print and then a cut file. So I need to come over here to my paper, and then I need to go make sure it is 8.5 by 11, at least that's what I'm printing. And then I'm going to go to the registration marks, click on the Cameo because that is the machine that I'm using, and you can see I've got the registration marks, and you can move it. Make sure you move it, you highlight both, and you can just move it so that it is not interfering with any of their registration marks, and then I can just go ahead and click off. So that's going to be great. I'm going to print this out. It will print the registration marks, then I'm going to put it back through the silhouette, and it will end up cutting the file exactly how I have it here in. All right, now that I have actually printed it and I've got my registration marks ready to go, I'm going to put it through my silhouette. So I'm going to come over to the send panel, and I've got the cardstock that I want, but when I look over at my design, I've got the outline that I want, and then I've got an outline of my text, which I do not want. So all I'm going to do here is go ahead and click right on this outline that I don't want, and I'm going to click on this no cut. And you can see that this line is now grayed out, which means it is not going to cut, which is exactly what I want to do. And now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to just send it through my silhouette, and my silhouette is going to find the registration marks, and then it's going to go ahead and cut it out perfectly. All right, you guys, I really hope all that made sense and that you're able to follow along with me. It actually isn't hard to do at all, and I really love the result. So I ended up cutting out 2. The first one I did, the print didn't actually print very well, but I decided to cut it out anyway because I wanted it to have a little bit more structure so that the snowflake wouldn't potentially tear. So I ended up sticking 2 together, and that's what I'm doing right now. And what's so great about using the silhouette or maybe using some kind of a die cut is they fit perfectly together because they're cut the exact same. So I just went ahead and adhered those down, and then like I said, that snowflake is a little bit more sturdy, and I'm just imagining people are going to turn it by grabbing onto the snowflake, so I wanted it to be a little bit thicker there. One thing that I also wanted to mention, I went ahead and I used liquid adhesive. It is so much easier when you are putting 2 things together, especially something intricate like this back to back, to be able to have liquid adhesive that will move and slide around so that you can get a perfect placement. So that is my plug for using the liquid adhesive when you're kind of like stacking stuff on top of one another. All right, so the next thing I think about doing is going ahead and adding the holes and just punching it out. But I want to wait to see what I put on the back side first before I punch out the holes. I could have done it, but I just decided to wait, and then I decided to move on to adding the lettering onto my photo. Again, I reached for the liquid adhesive. I like that the application is tiny and that you're able to put these small dots on such an intricate die. Of course, you could use something like spray adhesive for this, but I don't like using spray adhesive. I feel like it goes everywhere and everything gets so sticky. So I just decided to use the liquid adhesive, and it worked out just great. And actually does stick really well. I've never had anything fall off. All right, so my next step is actually just to adhere the photo onto the pocket that I made for day 9. And I find the easiest way to do this is to adhere two sides together, and that way you can cut off the excess on the other two sides. So I strategically, did the bottom because I knew that I would not be able to easily cut off the bottom. You can see that there was a little bit of an overhang, but I was able just to do it with scissors since the pocket was so thick. I didn't have to worry about using my trimmer for that at all. And there is actually a slight overhang on the left side, or I should say on the hole punch side. But because of the thickness of the pocket, there wasn't really anything I could do about it. So I didn't worry about it at all. All right, so now I am punching the holes and it is just too thick for my 6-hole punch. So I grabbed over my punch tool. I am so sorry, I don't know what the exact name of this, but it is We Are Memory Keepers, and I will have it linked below. And it's actually a tad larger hole than the ones that I put in. And I wish I had moved it just a little bit farther away from the edge because it seems like it's just a little too close. But anyway, it worked and it fit in the album, and I guess that's all that really counts, right? So now I am done with that side of it. I was just throwing my tags back in, and before I went ahead and I punched these holes, I wanted to add a backing to my journaling so I can just go ahead and punch the holes and get it in the album. So I know what I want to do for day 11 and that I'm not going to use the back side of that. So I wanted to do something a little bit different. And when I looked over, I saw this pattern paper that I almost used on the pocket for day 9. And I thought it went perfect with the snowflakes because the color, it has a very blue theme, and I love those pops of red. But of course the illustrations are very snow related, so there's like sledding and ice skating and people building snowmans and decorating trees, and so I thought it fit really well. And then I grabbed over a bunch of ephemera from the Merry Days pack, and I was just looking through some and considering maybe that I would add something on top of it. So one of the things I was trying to consider with this paper is where I wanted to cut it, because it was so whimsy and it had so many great illustrations. I didn't want to block any of them. It's like I wanted to be able to use every single one. So I actually ended up using this negative piece that would kind of help me, see exactly where I wanted to cut this paper, just so I could cut it out at the right place. So I'm glad that negative piece actually came in handy there. So I'm just futzing with it a little bit. I want to make sure that I cut it properly so I don't have to cut another piece. That's the one thing about only having one sheet of paper, is you only have one chance. So I just want to make sure that I got it good, cut it well on that one chance. So I just bit the bullet and just went ahead and cut it at the 3 inches. And then I'm just going to go ahead and adhere it on and call it good. Actually, one of the things that I had considered doing is actually running this pattern paper through my silhouette, cutting it with this actual cut with the snowflakes, and having the pattern paper be on the backside with the snowflakes being a part of the pattern paper. But in the end, I decided just to cut it off. I think I really wanted to keep those snowflakes white, but I think that would have been a great thing as well. I actually don't end up finishing the backside, so I do have the pattern paper on there, but I don't put anything on there yet. I think I wanted to maybe wait for day 11 just to see if there was something that corresponded with day 11 that I wanted to add to the back of that. So I just went ahead and I left it for now. So I will finish that off when I work on day 11. But now I really wanted to add the number, of course, and kind of figure out what I wanted to do for that. There was a couple different options. I was thinking of maybe adding a little collage of some things like I did on my, I think my reason why page. So I was grabbing up some of this ephemera, and I really wanted to use that tag that said "It's a Wonderful Life" because I thought it really needed maybe another pop of blue or something over on this right side, since it was so white and the photo has a lot of blue in it. I just thought that would really help. And I also liked the subtleness of the pink, but for whatever reason, I just could not, there was just not enough space at the top, because I actually did really like the skates, the ice skates, and I wish that that had worked out, but there just wasn't enough room at the top, and I felt like I was really just trying to shove it in. So I decided not to do that, and that what I would do is I would add my number 10. And I grabbed over this glitter paper that came in the Memory Days tag pack, and I think it's probably supposed to go behind the tags. But I thought that it was just a really beautiful, it was like a subtle gold. I don't know what you would call it. I mean, it's not a platinum, but it is champagne maybe. It's just a really pretty gold, and I just thought it would go really well and kind of pop off the page. After I had adhered the number 10 on and I really stood back and kind of looked at this layout, I kind of wished that I had die cut or used the silhouette to cut the Magic of Christmas with that gold paper. And if I had made the Magic of Christmas just slightly smaller, it would have actually fit on that rectangle of glitter paper, and I could have done it. But because it was just it was so slightly too big, I decided not to do it and just to leave it. So there are some things that I see that I feel like I have to change, and other things that I realize it's something that I can just totally let go. And that's one of those things that I decided to do here. So I really just love how simple and bold that day 10 ended up looking. Anyway, you guys, that is it for day 10. Thank you again for being here and supporting this channel. If you like what you saw, please give this video a thumbs up. And if you have not yet subscribed, please do so and click on the bell button so that you will get notifications when I add more December daily videos to my channel. All right, you guys, we'll see you next time. Bye.